I think there are two things that really separate this book from all the others. And one's the person, Nick. And secondly, it's the data he's drawn on. His company has access to such tremendous data that was waiting to be analysed, and Nick's analysed it, and he's found out what is good. And it's a natural progression from his first book, which was GPS for your organisation, where he talks how to strategise and plan. And this is really about the very nature of leadership. The importance of driving the culture of the organisation, the importance of leadership, the importance of relationships. And Nick does it in a very practical fashion. There's nothing sloppy about this book, but it's great from the way it deals with people and leads to organisations in which people are not only productive, but extremely happy.
There are thousands of books written on some of the individual habits individually, or even two or three. No book to our knowledge, no research to our knowledge has yet identified that you actually need all 7 habits embedded and integrated into your organisation at the same time to be able to achieve the sustainable high performance. The book identifies the 7 main habits that differentiate high-performance organisations from low-performance organisations. It's based on groundbreaking research of over 100,000 employee views from around 200 companies. And those things that differentiate the high-performance organisations from the low-performance organisations are these 7 business habits.
Well, I believe this book is so useful. It needs to be on the desk of any leader who has the book, because it really does provide a roadmap of what you need to do to drive a high-performance organisation.
This book shows organisations how to set the environment, the organisational environment, set the culture, set the circumstances that will maximise the opportunity for that potential to be released into people's lives, teams' lives, and the organisation, and obviously therefore for the benefit of the long-term sustainability of the organisation and to dramatically lift its performance.
And so far as I'm concerned, it's a book that says a message that really deserves to be said, and that is, the important thing is it's about people. And if we ignore that, I think we've lost the whole sight of what we do.
This book is something not just for profit organisations, it works for not-for-profit, it works for government, it works for every type and style of organisation, of every size, no matter where they are.
This is a wonderful book. Most people have read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, and Nick Barnett's 7 Habits for Organisations is the way to steer organisations in very disruptive and uncertain times, to foster a culture of engagement and innovation and well-being. Nick's the perfect guy to write this book because he has a big heart, vast experience, and has done his homework. And this book needs to be used every day by every leader, and it just has to become a habit, a daily habit.
Why is this book important? And for me, it answers a really important question, because it looks at what makes a high-performing organisation. And to me, you can only be a high-performing organisation in the long term if you're a healthy organisation. And I think the concept of healthy organisations is so important. You know, particularly you look in the Middle East, for example, and you just see states failing, and you see the terrible fallout from that. And at the end of the day, there are many people who argue that healthy states start with healthy families, healthy organisations, healthy communities. And I think Nick's book gives us real insights into what makes healthy and therefore high-performing organisations. Many of us have worked for toxic or semi-toxic organisations, and we know how much it impacts us as individuals, we know how that then impacts our families and our whole life and communities. So I've certainly worked for a toxic organisation, and I'm very pleased I'm not today. So the impact of healthy organisations is just so important. And if there are manuals that tell us how to create healthy organisations, they are really important. The book gives a lot of practical advice and real down-to-earth advice based on real data. So it comes from 200 organisations, well over 100,000 employee responses, and it did something very simple. It said, how are the top 25% different from the bottom 25%? And it found 7 main differences, which are called habits and which are outlined in the book. I just want to quickly, before I hand over to Peter Wilson, I just want to quickly quote from a letter from Karen Wood, who for many years was the president of HR at BHP Billiton. And she was hoping to be here tonight, but she's been called away to London. And she wrote a very thoughtful letter, and she reflects, she actually worked through 5 CEOs at BHP Billiton, and she saw the ups and downs, she saw the challenges, she saw the growth. And in reflecting on Nick's book, I'm just going to read 3 sentences. She said, in 1994, Paul Krugman wrote that productivity isn't everything, but in the long run, it is almost everything. A country's ability to improve its standard of living over time depends almost entirely on its ability to raise output per employee. 20 years on, the sentiment is as true for companies as it is for countries. 7 Business Habits sets a framework to help us achieve more with less. And this is the concluding sentence. It encourages us to forge a compact with our people to harness the energy of one team united behind a shared vision and values. So the importance of vision and values, and really having a compact with the team, a legitimate compact to make things happen. And obviously that's what we're not seeing happening in the Middle East. So I'm actually now going to hand over to Peter Wilson, who has got slightly less time than me, I believe. So thanks, Peter. I think many people will know Peter. Peter is the president and chair of ARI, and they are doing some very important work. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much. And it's a great pleasure to be here and to help Nicholas launch his book. We are both authors from the Major Street stable, and following me to speak we will have the Grand Matriarch of Major Street, the prima donna assoluta of the strange and wandering authors like Nicholas and I. So when I came across this book, when Nicholas sent me the book to read, you have sort of a focus from the things that you've encountered. When I saw 7 Habits, I immediately thought of Stephen Covey, a book he wrote in 1999 about the 7 habits of effective leaders. And more recently on my desk landed the 7 disciplines of sustainable leadership from Dave Ulrich in America. But they are focused particularly on the leadership. The differentiating thing about Nicholas's book, which appeals to me, being a bit of a maths and stats buff, is that he actually has strong data. When you start off in the first few pages and say you have surveyed 100,000 people in 200 organisations, it adds a level of compelling rigour and indeed clout to what's about to be said. And so as I read in, I wasn't reading the normal stuff in leadership literature about what people think the top person should think. I read about leadership in a systemic way. And I think that's why it's about high-performing organisations, not just the leaders in them, although we all carry a leadership mantle and you're conscious of that. I think it will sit extremely well in the leadership literature because of the substance of what it is, and it actually reminds me a bit of getting up each day. I think all of us, as we look into the mirror for the first time, we probably have some rituals we go through. If you're with young children and you've got a really demanding job, probably your main ritual is to think, I need to get through today and survive. As you get to a more reflective age, you start to think about what is it that's before me that reflects the compassion and the generosity of the human spirit, and what are the obligations that I have for my leadership mantle. And all of these are in Nicholas's book. The first thing we encounter, the first habit, is a vision. And Jacques' requisite organisation many years ago said people want to know about what their job is, what's expected out of me, what's going on around here, and where's this organisation headed. But that vision really needs to be developed not from the CEO, but in an interactive way. And you find the way Nicholas talks about vision, it's very interactive. It's not what the top person thinks, it's propositions they develop and how they interact with the senior leadership team in the organisation to galvanise people to go forward. And communication is his second habit. Again, we have to communicate many times, perhaps not so much on Facebook and Twitter, but in many ways to the people we're working with. And as you go further, there's the generosity of the human spirit. The other habits that Nicholas's significant research has shown is about rewarding and recognising people, often undernourished but highly valued, as recent neuroscience research has shown, and also genuinely caring. People will work much harder if they feel that they're being respected and cared for in the workplace. His research also talks about listening and adaptation. I was very pleased to find that as the sixth habit, because top leaders are really 70-30 listeners talkers. Many leaders we find, regrettably, are 70-30 the other way around, and they don't inspire people. They really are leaving particularly younger generations behind. And leaders that can actually spend time listening to what's going on, where the real power is with the customer and with the staff, are going to take great steps forward. And when I got to the seventh habit about great systems, I thought, bit of an IT buff here. But you go further into what Nicholas is saying, systems that are customer-centric and staff-centric, not systems for their own sake, but those connected to the way the blood flows through the organisation. So I only had one criticism of Nicholas's book. On page 133, you said leadership is not just an HR exercise. What on earth possessed you, man? But beyond the joke, he said leadership is a dynamic phenomenon. You've got to walk the talk, you've got to share the culture, and you've got to cut out those not on the bus. There's some tough edges to high-performing organisations. There are a lot of positive, but also there's some hard yards to go as well. So I think the great thing about the book is that it doesn't take long to remember the 7 habits. And as we get up each day and think about the ritual we go through, I think Nicholas's 7 epithets loom large in what's easy to remember. But sometimes, as I know, when I get to the end of the day and I look at myself in the mirror for the last time before I go to bed, I think, that didn't go well. You can still try again, and I would still take the same 7 principles that Nicholas sets out for us as the way you would think about how you're going to tackle the day and end up in a better place than you start. So, ladies and gentlemen, my great pleasure to commend Nicholas on his book and join in the launch tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Murray, for those kind words. I think I've got 10 minutes of voice left, so we'll see how we go. This is a big day for me, a very special day. Thanks so very much for coming along and sharing it with us. It's a real honour. This book, my second book, was birthed very recently, and very appropriately, I think last Sunday was Father's Day. The book took about 9 months to birth, but several months after that to form and shape, and I'll talk about that more. 3 things I want to do tonight. I want to talk to you about why I wrote the book, the process of writing the book, and I also want to tell you just a little bit about the book. So firstly, as many of you know, I'm very passionate about helping individuals, teams and organisations achieve their full potential. Indeed, that's why I believe I'm on the planet. And I think we all know, or certainly I believe, that every single individual, every team, every organisation has a massive amount of potential that is yet to be birthed, yet to blossom. And I'm sure that's the case for everyone here today. In fact, I probably should ask you to put up your hands if you think you've got a bit more potential inside that hasn't quite come out yet. What a beautiful sight, every single person, I think. And there's no doubt about that, and that's what the book's about. So the book's written for boards and CEOs and leadership teams to really help them set the right organisational environment for that brilliance to shine, so that individuals will become, their brilliance will come forth, employees will become more engaged, more energised, more focused, and that will obviously then lead on to sustainable high performance. As Murray's already pointed out, there's a lot of research and work done before this book was started, and it was actually, Peter kindly said it was my research. I actually have to declare it was actually a lot of people out there, Insync Surveys research. So our beautiful firm, Insync Surveys, did some groundbreaking research, over 100,000 individual views of employees from around 200 companies. And we actually put out a research paper early in 2013, having done the research in 2012. And we sent that out to a lot of our clients and friends. We had breakfasts and lunches to discuss that, and it had a massive interest. So we thought, well, we should put this out there, we should turn it into a book and share it with the world. So that's why we wrote the book. So the process of writing the book, you can't write a book if you haven't written one without a lot of help. And there's certainly a lot of people in this room who've had a big input, and I'll come to that in a moment. But firstly, Laura Barker from our office. Laura project managed this. She kept me on task. We met every week until we finished the book. And without someone keeping you on task and keeping you up to speed, books don't get written. So thanks, Laura. Thanks for keeping us up to speed. The book was, we got to the final draft probably later in 2013, but during that process, my daughter Sarah, who's here somewhere, and Margaret Rogers, my executive assistant, typed far more copies than they would care to remember. Typed and retyped and redrafted and changed things, changed the order, did all sorts of things. But so thank you for doing that. When we got to that fairly final version, I shared that with a lot of my Insync colleagues and lots of friends. So dozens of people put a critical eye over the book to say, well, what have we missed? What's in the wrong order? What's got the wrong emphasis? Is there enough case studies and anecdotes? And all of those questions were asked. And that can be humbling because people were pretty hard at that, which is good. We took all that on board and made lots of changes. So there were lots of people involved in this book. In fact, let's put up your hands if you had some involvement in bringing this book to life. Like Peter Wilson, you should have your hand up because you endorsed it, and lots of research done, dozens and dozens of people that have been involved with this book. So thank you all very much. When the book was coming to the final round, I actually commissioned my daughter, eldest daughter Elizabeth, to do some illustrations for the book. She did 19 in total, and they are fantastic. Now, Elizabeth had recently had her first child and our first grandchild, and she actually thought she had some other priorities. But anyway, she found time to do those beautiful illustrations, and I'm very proud of them, part of a family affair. My son Anthony volunteered to typeset and to design the cover, as he did for my first book. And he also turned the book into an e-book for Kindle and iPad and other popular e-readers as well. So once the book got to that stage, it was sent to a number of business and academic colleagues and leaders in this country, like Peter Wilson and Ronald Francis is here tonight, and 6 or 8 others, and they very kindly wrote some incredibly thoughtful endorsements. Something that takes a year to write, they've just written a very succinct 1 paragraph, and that's summarised on the back of the book, so thank you to those people. Leslie has been mentioned tonight from Major Street Publishing, did a fabulous final edit. Louise Wheatland, who's coming shortly, also did a fabulous final edit. So basically the book went through the ringer, all these reviews, but it did come out the other side a far better book. So thank you for all that. One more thing, of course, my dear wife Lisa supported me, encouraged me all the way along, and occasionally gave me a bit of a shove as well, which was great. So lastly and thirdly, what's the book about? Well, very quickly, I believe it sets out some timeless leadership principles and some very solid foundation stones for leadership. So in times when everything else is changing around you, you need to hold tight to these 7 things if you want to achieve sustainable high performance in your organisation. So what are these 7 habits? Well, very quickly, I'm going to take you through my daughter's metaphor or image for each. So habit 1 is live an inspiring vision. So Elizabeth's done an image of a magnet up in the sky drawing people to it. And I love that image. It's not just pointing to the direction, it is so strong it's drawing people to it. If you want to find out more, you'll need to buy the book. Habit 2 is communicate clear strategies and goals. The metaphor and the image is a set of goalposts, Aussie rule, goalposts and point posts. And I love that image. Too many organisations continually move the posts. Some organisations even remove the posts. Communicate clear strategies and goals. Habit number 3 is to develop your people. And I love the image of the orchestra conductor. Benjamin Zander, Boston Philharmonic Orchestra's conductor, said some fabulous words. I set as a goal the maximum capacity that people have. I settle for no less. I make myself the relentless architect of the possibility of human beings. The relentless architect of the possibility of human beings. So that's all about developing our people. Let's be the Benjamin Zanders in our organisations. Fourthly, go out of your way to recognise your people. And the image is a whole lot of trophies and prizes. And it really does mean go out of your way to recognise. Make special effort to do that, and don't be scared to be spontaneous about that. The 5th habit is genuinely care for your people. Be genuine. And there's a great image. Elizabeth's got a sculpture under fire. And the reason that's there is 1,000 years ago, if you bought a sculpture, took it home on a hot day, it would weep out a little bit of wax if it was a fake. If they chipped the marble, they thought, oh gee, we better just fill that with wax. They thought, okay, no one will notice. That's a fake, not authentic. So the buyers put their sculptures under fire before they paid for them, just to make sure that they're the real thing. So be authentic. People will know if you really and honestly and truly care for your people. And if you don't, your employees will also know. You can't fool them. Aussies are pretty good at spotting a fake. And under greater pressure, genuine people, authentic people will also shine, as will fakes. The 6th one, which Peter also referred to, was listen and adapt to your customers' needs. So number 6, listen and adapt to your customer needs. The image is a whole lot of ears. Listen. Really listen to your customers and adapt. Be very customer-focused, customer-centric. And lastly, number 7, continually improve your systems. Lovely image of Circus du Soleil performers, continually improving, and people and processes and systems working as one. So it's no good just improving your systems without the people component. It's all got to hang together. So that's number 7. So the thing that's important about the book is that actually there's plenty of books written on one or some of these habits. As Peter's pointed out, research says that actually you need all 7, and they are all together indispensable. It's not a smorgasbord. You can't say, well, actually I quite like 1 and 3, let's adopt those and not do the other ones. They're all indispensable. They're all interrelated. If you're poor at one, it's going to undermine one or more of the other ones. So do them all correctly. And finally, in the words of Dr. Brian McNamee AO, who wrote the foreword to the book, if you want to achieve high performance in your organisation, adopt the 7 business habits. Thank you very much.
it's not so lovely to be last. Everything that I was going to say has almost been said before. So I'm sorry if it's a bit repetitive. Perhaps we should go straight to the cake, but no, I should say something. The 7 Business Habits, as everybody's talked about already, is a leadership book. It sits in the leadership category. So I thought I'd talk to you about leadership, not knowing that that's what Peter was going to talk to you about and what Nick was going to talk to you about. But anyway, I thought about leadership, and I thought about the traits of good leaders, and I came up with 7. I came up with that they live an inspiring vision, they communicate clear strategies and goals, they develop their people. I think you get the gist. Good leadership qualities, in my mind, are the good habits that good leaders need to instill throughout their whole company. And what I like about Nick's book, this book and the previous book, is they're very practical. They're not theoretical books. So basically, a good leader can take this book and he can give it to his management team, and they should be able to take instruction from the book, and the 7 habits should trickle down throughout the whole company. And the book will help them do just that. It's marvellous in that way. This is the second book that I've worked on with Nick, and what I like about Nick is that he's a real mix of left brain, right brain person. He's very creative. He has ideas for the book, and it's a cute looking book as well. I mean, it's a beautiful book. It's got a lovely cover, and I know a lot of that's to do with his creative children, but you know, he drove the project, so it's down to him as well. So he's very creative. At the same time, he's a numbers man. So the book, as we've already said, is backed up with some serious research done by Insync surveys, which gives it huge credibility. And basically, you just can't argue with it. It's sensible advice that all companies and organisations should take on board. So that's all that I really wanted to say. Like GPS for your organisation, it's not a difficult read. It's an easy book to refer to people, to read and reread. It's beautifully packaged, and it's very sound advice. And I think it really is invaluable and almost required reading for the next generation of leaders who hopefully will be better at running our companies, organisations, even our countries, if they take some of this advice on board. So congratulations, Nick. I wish you all the luck. I wish the book all the luck it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming tonight and for celebrating with Nick, and have a great evening. We're still going to be here for half an hour, so just relax, mix. There's some very interesting people. You can get your book and have some cake. Thank you so much for coming.